and what's and whys and wherefores. Here you'll find your what-nots and therefores. So come on along, let's find out what's going on. Where's and when's and who's and what's it's. No matter what your taste, you can trust it's the place where you can find all your new Disney news. Where's and when's and who's and what's it's. No matter what you taste, you can trust it's the place where you can find all your new Disney news.
Welcome to the Sweet Spot Podcast. This is our current events episode as of February 3rd, 2023. How's it going, Ken?
Oh, Lynn, it is going. It's going. So happy to be here and looking forward to talking about what's going on at the Disneyland Resort.
That's right. Ken and I are both former Disneyland Custodial cast members, and we talk Disneyland. This is our current event show, and we have a main topic show where we discuss history. We have interviews with Imagineers and authors and cast members. And so you don't want to miss those, but this is if you're just catching on to our show or just finding out about it, this is what this show is. It's more of the news around the Disneyland Resort, like Ken had said.
Yes, and if you're subscribed to the show, you are, for instance, Apple Podcasts, you are going to get those episodes automatically. So It's not like you have to go searching for a different podcast. No. It is the Sweet Spot Podcast. So the last one we did was a Disneyland question roundtable with the guys from the Hub Crawl podcast, and next time we're scheduled to talk about Main Street in great detail.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us, and keep listening and keep subscribed to us so that you get the past and the present and the future of the resort.
That's right. So let's move on with our show, and we'll get into the current events after a word from Concierge. Plan your next getaway vacation to a Disney destination by contacting our friends at Concierge, our magical travel and vacation planning partners.
Whether you're going to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, a Disney cruise, Disney's Aulani in Hawaii, or Adventures by Disney, contact the people who specialize in Disney. Want to visit Universal? Concierge can help you with that too. It's not going to add any cost to your vacation. Go to concierge.com, that is CONCIEARS.com, like concierge and mouse ears, because they are your travel concierge to Disney, with you every step of the way.
They can get you reservations, update you on changes, conditions, and take away the stress of planning a vacation. Let them do the heavy lifting.
Want to have Lynn be your concierge? Email Lynn at lbarron@concierge.com. That's lbarron@concierge.com.
Mention the Sweet Spot when you book a package with them, like a week on a Disney cruise or a hotel stay with theme park admission tickets, and get a special gift. Now we're going to have the current events. Ken, do you have anything for us this week?
Oh, I got a few things, Lynn. Well, let's start off with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, since that's a brand new attraction that had opened at the park. Brady McDonald reported in the Orange County Register how Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway fits into the pantheon of Disneyland dark rides. Now, and I do want to point out on my own that, this was did not take away an attraction, unlike at Walt Disney World. So this was an additional attraction. And if you total up all the attractions at the Disneyland Resort, we've got a lot to crow about compared to other Disney resorts.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, as Brady McDonald says, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway debuted on Friday, January 27th, after a series of employee and media previews as part of a reimagined Mickey's Toontown that returns in March. Disneyland's newest addition isn't a truly new ride. The East Coast version of Runaway Railway opened at Disney's Hollywood Studios in March of 2020, just a few days before the COVID-19 pandemic shuttered Disney theme parks around the globe. Runaway Railway is a throwback to the classic Fantasyland dark rides with a mix of cutting-edge technology seen in the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and Avengers Campus. The new Toontown trackless dark ride captures the chaos of the latest Mickey Mouse cartoon shorts with a topsy-turvy journey through, aboard a runaway train that encounters hurricanes, waterfalls, and stampeding bulls. Lynn, did you see? Well, everybody's posting stuff. Have you seen any of the stuff from this?
I have, yeah. The queue looks very good. That's one thing I noticed. It has carpet throughout, so as a custodian, you can just imagine. But yeah, it looks really good. A lot of detail on the queue. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, it's Brady's just comparing and contrasting to the original dark rides in Fantasyland, and it's hard to compare because this is just so. The technology is just so different.
Yeah.
And he's also comparing it to Rise the Resistance. He says, it's like the trackless ride vehicles in Rise the Resistance. He goes, there's other similarities to the groundbreaking Rise the Resistance attraction that clocks in at an astonishing 18 minutes. The Runaway Railway ride vehicles dock into a port like the finale in the epic Star Wars attraction, where the riders watch scenes unfold on domed screens, similar to the effects seen on Millennium Falcon's Smuggler's Run. So it's getting good feedback. I think it's a success in terms of how people are experiencing it. And Brady says that it blows away old school dark rides starring other Disney cartoon characters like Alice in Wonderland, Pinocchio, Little Mermaid, Winnie the Pooh, or Mike and Sully from Monsters, Inc. Runaway Railway can't compete with the thrill or complexity level of other modern rides like Rise of the Resistance, Web Slingers, or Radiator Springs Racers. Of course, it's not supposed to,
Yeah.
You need these things that the whole family can enjoy, and so that's good. Mice Chat will have they have your guide to Disneyland's Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and that's with Dusty Sage. Again, we're going to have all of these at our current event show notes, so you can click through and see the entire thing. Go to thesweepspot.com to see that. From a cast member perspective, new attractions, it takes us a while to figure out how to clean them during the day and how to clean them at night. If there's going to be a queue, that's got to be cleaned. If something happens in one of the ride vehicles, that needs to be cleaned. So it's, and of course this is, like I said, an expansion. So, do you add another shift to cover it? A lot of times with new attractions, custodial would rather have too many cast members than too few. So what'll happen is, you might, like Toontown might get like a whole nother cast member for this.
Right.
At least at the start of it, and then as we see how to manage it, it'll be absorbed into the larger Toontown area. So like I remember when Indiana Jones first opened, there were you had like two cast members inside Indiana Jones, But we also had like 2 cast members in Adventureland and 2 in like Norland Square, in case there was a hydraulic leak spill, and you would have this abundance of cast members to go in and clean up the spill as quickly as we could to get the attraction back open again.
Right.
And then as time wore on, it's like, okay, we only need 1 cast member in there, so.
I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I haven't asked the question to some of our friends, but I'm pretty sure that attraction has its own custodial crew, especially now, where there's not a land yet. I mean,
right.
there is, but there's not. But there will be next month. But yeah, I just think the whole thing is, you mentioned how many rides are at Disneyland, and that this is an additional ride, that they're not closing something and replacing this. Yeah, there's some things that are going to be down, like Splash Mountain eventually, that that you could say would substitute this, or substitute that. But man, it's just talk about spreading the crowds out, because once Toontown opens, you're gonna have Galaxy's Edge and Toontown, the 2 newer areas in the park. They're going to be popular,
and they're not connected.
No.
So if you want to go from one to the other, you've got to go on quite the journey.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they're going to do what they did when Toontown first opened, and have a little satellite first aid office, because you're so far to the remote area of you're so far from the first aid office by the Central Plaza, the hub. They did have one. They did have a satellite first aid office when it first opened in 1983, and you kind of wonder with this renewed focus on Toontown and the new attraction up there, if they are gonna have a satellite office up there.
We had one in Critter Country for a while.
There was one in Critter Country when Splash Mountain. Critter Country was new. Splash Mountain was new, because again, you're at the far corner of the park.
Yeah.
The Laughing Place does have video of the official ribbon cutting of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, so that's cool. And now, as far as Lightning Lane goes, as LaughingPlace.com reported, despite Runaway Railway being the newest ride, it looks as though Disney will be pricing it a bit lower than some other e-tickets. For example, the morning of January 27th, a Lightning Lane purchase for the ride was listed as $20 each. Meanwhile, the Genie Plus service was set at $25 for the day, which is the Disneyland Resort's base price, while Rise of the Resistance Lightning Lane was also priced at $25.
Wow.
So Rise of the Resistance was priced, $5 more. So that's going to be interesting, how that plays out.
I wish they didn't have that. I wish they had a standby for the ride, because we kind of talked a little bit about this. We were guests on the Hub Crawl, the next episode of the Hub Crawl podcast. Ken and I were guests on there, but we talked a little bit about it. I just feel like if they're going to advertise for an attraction that's the newest attraction, at Disneyland, and I'm sure I don't live in Southern California, but I'm sure they are advertising it. People, let's go to Disneyland and go on this new thing, but you have to get you have to buy the Lightning Lane, which is additional money, or do the virtual queue, and it just doesn't seem right. I think they need to have, at least everyone should have an opportunity to ride it, because the virtual queue is not. It's more of a lottery. It's not really like first come. I mean, it is, but it's also just a weird setup. And not everyone gets to go on it that tries for a virtual queue spot.
I'm so glad that I don't have to sweep in the area where you're sweeping in there, and then like somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, what's that? That looks new. Can I get in there?" And you go, "Well, do you have a boarding group number, or do you have a lightning lane?"
What's that?
No. It's like, yeah. Well, if you're over a certain age, it's like your toddler can figure it out on your smartphone. But but it's like, I'm sorry, can you imagine? Because custodial sweepers are always, out and about, and we're like easily approachable, and I'm sure there's a bunch of sweepers that get the brunt of that. It's like, I want to go on that. Well, I'm sorry, you can't. And I'm sure, of course, not to mention the attractions cast members, who I'm sure get that constantly.
Oh yeah.
It's like, no. Well, do you have a boarding number? No. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I'm sure City Hall gets tons of complaints. People that didn't get the boarding group that tried to get it. Because anything could happen in that process. You literally only have like 3 seconds to get it. It seems ridiculous. So, one time I was trying to get for Rise Resist, and it logged me out just as it happened. I'm like, oh no. And luckily we got it, but I don't know how. But it's
nervous making. It's really
crazy.
Is.
Yeah, after you had already paid a bunch of money to get in. So I don't know. I think there needs to be a standby, and maybe cut off the standby at a certain time so you don't have it going all day and late and everything. But I think
it's the funny thing that the funny thing is one of Tony Baxter used to advocate, back when the park was under different management at the time. They were reluctant to really invest in big new attractions, and because they're just saying, well, why do we need to? We've just got all this gate revenue, because it wasn't like back with the coupon system, the A through E ticket, where you could say, well, if you build a new attraction, you can charge all these e-tickets to go ride it. So right. Tony would say, well, why don't you, fine, for the first few years of the new attraction, make it an additional charge. Mm-hmm. Make sure that's advertised ahead of time, and then you're going to that way you can prove you're recuperating, the money you invested into it. You can prove to investors, we've recouped it all from all this separate charge, and they wouldn't do it, and now they're de facto doing that with this lightning lane thing.
True, yeah.
That's exactly, they're having a separate charge to but of course it doesn't have to be lightning lane, but but let's get real, if you get shut out of, if you can't get it on a boarding group, and you do it through lightning lane. So I think things never really ever were completely resolved from the switch from the A through E system to pay one price. There's effects that linger through history. Anyway.
Well,
so
remember when before the phones, the digital, remember FastPass was free. It was part of the complimentary to your park ticket. Yeah. And now
they spent all that money on the FastPass infrastructure as a free service to people.
Right, and everyone thought that was so great because at the time, like Universal had this Express Pass thing that was additional money, and they still do. But it's a lot more money than what Disneyland charges. It's like $100 more. And you can only use it one time. That's like Genie Plus. You can only use it one time per attraction. So, anyways.
Yeah.
Thought I'd throw that in there.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
Yeah.
A lot going on, really. I mean, Wondrous Journeys is there. Brady McDonald did a story on that. He did a review of Wondrous Journeys. He says it's everything a Disneyland fireworks show can and should be. But, of course, again, Disney doesn't want to advertise it as a fireworks show because, there's going to be times they can do the show, but they can't do the fireworks. So, but as he says, The new Wondrous Journeys looks at artistic expression through the lens of Disney animators from the past 100 years. Scenes play out from every stage of the animating process through the ages, from line drawings and background illustrations to computer-generated imagery and special effects. Standing mid-block on Main Street, USA, the fireworks seem much more focused on the Sleeping Beauty Castle, with fewer skyrocketing blasts than past shows. The pyrotechnics appeared more layered in both depth and height. Ultimately, Wondrous races through 18 songs in 13 minutes while paying tribute to every Disney animated movie ever made.
Wow.
Try as you might, there's virtually no way to catch a glimpse of all 62 animated films in one showing. The show takes some deep dives into Disney flops like Treasure Planet and Atlantis that have developed loyal fan bases in the ensuing decades. It also offers nods to the latest film, Strange World, as well as the upcoming November release, Wish. Wondrous Journeys has the makings of an instant classic that will keep audiences coming back for more. Well, these nighttime shows are the kiss goodnight, from an operations standpoint, the idea is to keep people in the park as late as possible, and custodial's got to accommodate these things. It takes a while to figure it all out, but it's like, how are we going to do this given the crowds and how guest control handles everything, and then how are we going to keep things in order while people are waiting for the show to start, and then after the show, how do we clean up as fast as we can? And it's each time you change something, it becomes a new challenge. And of course, we get asked, where's the best place to watch? And for the old fireworks shows, it used to be, Main Street or in front of the castle, But now, there's stuff to see on the Main Street buildings or the Small World facade, or even if they're using the Phantasmic mist screens.
Yeah. Yeah, they're trying to distribute the crowds a little better throughout the park instead of everyone trying to cram in front of the castle. But I saw some of the fireworks show and heard some of the music, and it sounded good. It looked like they put a lot of effort into it, more than they have in the last few shows that I've seen. But we'll see. I'll have to see it in person.
Yeah, you can see, if you want to see video, Laughing Place has it. You can there's video at mychat.com. They cover it in depth. They have a 4K video for that. And Brady also, he talked about World of Color over in California Adventure, World of Color 1. And the headline for his review says, it's a rare Disneyland dud that lacks energy and power. Now, this is from the 26th of January, and he says, the theme of the new water show is that a single drop of water can turn into a wave of change. But World of Color 1 barely made a ripple on the preview night that was hampered by high winds that gusted to 75 miles per hour in some parts of Orange County. Quiet, contemplative, thoughtful, and mellow are not the words that typically come to mind when you think of bombastic and vibrant Disney nighttime spectaculars, but that's the best way to describe World of Color 1. One felt more like a Zen meditation than a triumphant celebration of 100 years of all things Disney. He goes on to say, towards the end of it, he said the biggest disappointment of 1 is that World of Color has never looked better from a technical standpoint, with sharper projections, a sparkling Incredicoaster lighting package, and brilliantly colorful fountains. But later, he has a story from February 2nd with the headline, Disney's new World of Color 1 is unexpected and different, and that's the goal. where he kind of interviews the people who were involved with the project. So instead of a review, this is kind of like a behind-the-scenes sort of look at it. And yeah, I just thought that was funny when I saw those headlines back to back.
Yeah.
And MiceChat.com covers it. LaughingPlace.com covers it because those officially debuted. MiceChat.com has Disneyland's 100 Years of Wonder celebration details. So Natalie Kipper has that because, of course, they're celebrating 100 years of the Walt Disney Company. It's funny. I've seen people say, wait a minute, weren't they just doing the 60th anniversary not long ago? And it's like, that's for the park. That's not for...
Yeah, it's kind of confusing, yeah.
It's not... This is the entire Walt Disney Company, the Disney Brothers Studio when they started 100 years ago. And, yeah, they had some... there was a lot of attention online for some of the banners that they had posted around the resort, where it said like Matterhorn 1955, Yeah. It's like, no, it was 1959, or Snow White. They had the wrong year for Snow White.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I assume those were fixed or taken down.
I would imagine those banners are going to be sold at the Von Eaton Gallery eventually. Dewey defeats Truman,
Yeah.
Well, we told you it would happen. And Earl of Sandwich is reopened at Downtown Disney. It's in the temporary location. That got coverage from the Orange County. Think about this.
Incredibly fast.
It's funny because you have a major newspaper that's covering the opening of a sandwich shop. But that's how much, how important they consider the Disneyland Resort.
You know that Earl, I was thinking about this the other day. They opened up, at the old Compass bookstore location.
Yeah.
And then they closed because remember they were gonna tear down, they were gonna evacuate that area, and they were gonna do change it, and then they didn't. Remember, it got postponed or something happened to the project. So then they closed them. Then they reopened them again, and now they closed them again, but moved them. And now they're going to be closing them again at this location when they finally have their permanent location after it's built. It's just,
yeah. It's. I wonder how this stuff is all decided.
Yeah.
Because to me, like I said, I don't think there's a better spot.
No,
you're closer to the two parks and everything, but of course the Earl of Sandwich is not going to stay there. Supposedly,
no.
The other restaurant's going to go in there.
Porto's, from what I had read, they don't want to use the existing building, so they're going to tear that building down after.
It's amazing. That is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder if they'll ever put anything over on the east side of the Esplanade. You kind of wonder, I guess I just need that to get people in and out of the resort, I guess.
Yeah.
But of course, everybody covered that, the opening of the shop, the Orange County Register and MiceChat and Laughing Place. And so if you really want to see pictures and video, you can. Now, here's something that's newsworthy. And again, imagine that this is in a major newspaper. Disneyland rolls back unpopular Galaxy's Edge price hikes from Chapek era.
Chapek.
When Disneyland is just so... They just know that there's so many people who eat this stuff up, so they go with these stories. Yeah. Disneyland has dropped prices on the lightsaber building experience at Savi's workshop from $250 to $220, and on Astromech assembling experience at Droid Depot from $120 to $100. Disneyland has adjusted pricing on the lightsaber building and droid assembling experiences in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge after further evaluation and guest feedback, according to Disneyland officials. So maybe fewer people were signing up for it. I mean,
Well, I know that the droid workshop is not as popular as Savi's because there's always openings available,
Yeah.
where Savi's um, it does fill up faster. But yeah, it's interesting that the prices were, I think it's 219 actually, and then they got hiked up to 250, 249, and then now back to the 219.
Yeah.
Interesting, but it's good. I'm glad that they listen to the people and they see the demand and where the demand isn't, and who's willing to pay what, and they adjusted it, so it's good.
Yeah, for the price to go down, I mean, that is newsworthy.
Yeah.
For Disney to, they point out in this same story that in early January, Disney officials announced Disneyland will offer nearly 2 months of dates in 2023 with daily tickets at $104, which is their lowest tier price. That's about 50% more dates at the lowest price for a one-day, one-park admission to the Anaheim theme park. Wow. So that's interesting. They've stuck with the tiered pricing, and that low end price hasn't gone up. So we'll see when eventually it will. But yeah, and if you can't read the story at the Register, Laughing Place covers the same story about the rolling back of the prices. Disneyland kicks off Black History Month with Food and Music Festival. That's a Brady McDonald story as well. A gospel tradition featuring Southern California choirs that goes back more than a decade at Disneyland returns in February as the Anaheim theme park celebrates Black History Month with music, food, and new theme park additions. The Celebrate Soulfully event honoring Black culture with authentic food and music will run throughout February at Disneyland, Disney California Adventure, and Disney Hotels. So, that is exciting stuff. The article goes on to talk about, all the different aspects of it. So, a lot of Disney seems to, food is a big thing for all the different seasonal things that they do. But there was also MiceChat.com covers that they say Celebrate Soulfully for Black History Month at Disneyland. And that's Nathan Villamore had that story. So if you want to read all the details, you can. And the official Disney Parks blog points out that there's a new Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln feature that honors Frederick Douglass. So, as they say, some of the cast members who helped bring to life a powerful new video in the lobby of the Disneyland Story presenting Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln recently gathered for a first look days before it debuted to guests at Disneyland Park. The pre-show video tells the story of the relationship between the 16th president and abolitionist Frederick Douglass. In striving to create a culture of inclusion for cast and guests to feel seen and heard, the highly collaborative project team included representatives from Walt Disney Imagineering, National Geographic, and the Disneyland Resort Pulse Business Employees Resource Group, which advocates for cast members of African and Caribbean descent and backgrounds. Together, they work to bring the story of Douglass and Lincoln's friendship and fight against slavery to a 9-minute documentary now playing in the Main Street Opera House at Disneyland Park. In April 2022, a bust and portrait of Douglass were installed in the lobby next to those of Abraham Lincoln. So that's, I'm glad to see that Disney hasn't given up on history. Having history in the theme parks. And of course, what better place than, where they have the Lincoln show. So, having, Disney should not get rid of history. I mean, it's one of the things that I enjoy at the theme parks is that, American history and
Yeah.
Some of the educational aspects of that. Of course, history, you can't go over everything and explain everything. And of course, 9 minutes on Frederick Douglass, hopefully what happens is you get people who go, especially children, that go, I'd like to know more about Frederick Douglass, so then they'll go search out a book or something, or, go to a website that explains more about Frederick Douglass. So, because 9 minutes is just a brief thing. Laughing Place has video from photos from the debut of that. There's a Disney Parks blog story just late breaking news on this one. The new storyline details revealed for Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and this one's from Kevin Rafferty Jr. And it's let's see. They go through what the storyline's going to be that inspires the attraction, and they point out that it's picking up where the story left off. Tiana continues bringing people together with Tiana's Foods and another treasured meeting place to spend time together and celebrate a diverse community. Tiana is also working with cooperative members to teach gardening and cooking to the children of all ages, and inspiring other women to run successful businesses as the brand grows nationwide. So they have this whole thing about, there's a salt mine, and, this is what's going to, first it's going to be at Walt Disney World, but they're going to do it to the Disneyland Splash Mountain too. So that was late breaking news, and hopefully we'll get more details on that soon.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing planned. I mean, there's no other, that's going to be new, but there's no new construction of a new attraction that's been announced. That's kind of an overhaul of an existing facility, but now that Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is done, it's like, are they going to do something with Tomorrowland? Are they going to do something with Avengers Campus? Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. Let's see. Disneyland to restart All American College Band after putting 50-year-old program on hiatus.
That was fast.
Yeah, the headline had been different at first. It was, they're basically, people thought that's the end of it. When Disney says hiatus, they often mean gone for good. So, I've joked about that plenty of times, but they updated the story. The story started off with, let's see, since 1971, the Disneyland All-American College Band has performed in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle and along Main Street, USA, with signature selection of dance moves that made the group a fan favorite. Disneyland, they have it updated. A Disneyland tradition for more than half a century that brought the sounds of trumpets, saxophones, and drums marching down Main Street, USA, has come to a sudden end with the abrupt cancellation of a beloved college music program. Then they say that it's been, an institution at the park for more than 50 years, and it was going on an indefinite hiatus. But the update says a Disneyland announced that the All-American College Band program will be restarted, and a project team has been established to help with the relaunch. No restart date was announced for the program. So, wonder, of course you had the hiatus, everything had a hiatus when the parks were closed.
Right.
And you kind of wonder why, is it just too much trouble to assemble this band? I mean, they do have, Disney has if Disney's going to have college program cast members, I can't imagine it would be, prohibitive to have an all-American college band as well. Very enjoyable.
It could have been as simple as not having a band leader for it, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, as always, micechat.com has some updates. They have a Disneyland update, time to recalibrate, illuminate, and celebrate. That's from Andy Castro on January 25th. And there was also an update called Disneyland News Update, Nothing Can Stop Us Now, and that was Mike Kendrick. But I am interested in what is going on with the rehabs. Do you have information on refurbishments at the park?
I do. It is that time of year. And so we have quite a few here. Haunted Mansion is down now and will come back February 10th. So that's next Friday if you're listening. Indiana Jones Adventure, no return date. I'm assuming before summer, late spring. So, Adventureland Treehouse, no return date, no reopening date. You know, they're redoing it. Grizzly River Run, it goes down about this time of year every year, but that will return March 17th. Inside Out, Emotional Whirlwind. It's down and returns February 10th. Ralph Brennan's Jazz Kitchen Express. It's a little walk-up window. And there's no return date for that yet. I'm just going up to as far as the calendar goes, and it goes to about mid-March. Mickey's PhilharMagic is down February 13th and returns February 24th. The French Market and Mint Julep Bar is closed February 17th with no return date, and I'm assuming by summer. Silly Symphony Swings down February 27th, no return date. As far as out as the calendar goes. And the last one is the Mark Twain Riverboat. It's down just a couple days on March 6th and back on March 10th. And that's all I have for the refurbs. Want to thank you for listening to the current events. A couple of things before we take off. Go to our website for all the show notes that go with what Ken has a lot of the sources where you got some of these articles. You can go back and read them yourself, and check out that's all at the website, so check that out. You can get our books like we mentioned, sign up for Patreon there. You'll leave a review and we'll read it on our main show, but the main show, episode 352, will be coming out next week. So enjoy this, and we'll talk with you next time.